did have a closed session, so we have something we need to certify.
Yes, if you could just allow me to read this certificate of closed meeting. Do each of you certify that, to the best of your knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened, were heard, discussed, or considered by the Board of Supervisors in closed meeting? If you could each both certify to that.
Mr. Settle,
Yes.
Mr. Geno,
Yes.
Ms. Comer,
Yes.
Mr. Whitson,
Aye.
and I also. All right, and we're going straight into the public hearing, which is zoning ordinance amendment, electrical substations. Mr. Curry, are you going to?
Just a brief introduction, if you will. This matter has been discussed by the Board of Supervisors before. The Planning Commission has reviewed it and vetted this ordinance amendment to the zoning ordinance over multiple meetings and held a public hearing at their last meeting to consider amending the zoning ordinance to include a new definition for electrical substations and also include special requirements for that new use. The new subdivision or substation electrical substation, it's been a long day. The electrical substation use would be allowed in all zoning districts, but would have special requirements on them, whereas today it's not clearly identified as a separate use and previously did not have any special requirements for the use. As I noted, the Planning Commission held their public hearing at the last meeting. They voted unanimously to recommend the Board of Supervisors approve it. This public hearing was properly advertised pursuant to Virginia Code 15.2.2204. Before you consider adopting this ordinance, you must hear from the public as part of a public hearing.
Madam Chair, I was just, I guess it's a point of order, I know people are here, some people are here with the expectation that the flock camera discussion, which occurred earlier, was going to be tonight.
Oh.
And in any event, I just want everyone to be clear that there will be a separate public comment period for general topics unrelated
Absolutely.
to the zoning ordinance amendment.
Yep. We did have some day agenda items that we did not get to that got moved down to right after public hearing, so it may take a little bit to get to public comment.
I thought they moved to the end.
All right, at this time, we have the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak, I'll give you 5 minutes because it's a different topic, and I know one that probably matters to people. Come up, give us your name and your district, and tell us what you're thinking with regards to this public hearing only, please. Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to shrink tonight.
I think it seemed
Karen Hunt, Jackson District. It is important that we have the ability to review and consider impacts that might occur from the expansion of existing electrical substations or the construction of new ones. The proposed ordinance gives us the ability to have some say over where these facilities might be located, the impacts they may have on property owners and the environment, and how they may impact our county as a whole. Generally, I support what is being proposed, but big surprise, I think we could strengthen it further. There are some things that are included for electrical plants, facilities, renewable energy, and utility categories that are not included in the language for substations, such as we do not specify a minimum parcel size. We do not mention substations should not be located on prime agricultural soils on slopes less than 15%. We are not requiring at least 200 feet of frontage on a state-maintained road, although we do use the remaining road language requirements. And we are not requiring the expected footprint of equipment to be constructed with the other specifics. We are not requiring potential impacts on wildlife or the biologically significant area surrounding the site to be provided for review. Would it be appropriate to require these same aspects for electrical substations? With regard to the minimum yard setback requirement, 100 feet is pretty minimal. Something greater may be more appropriate to better mitigate impacts on other parcels and roadways, particularly because there is language in there that we're going to be including a provision that the Board of Supervisors can waive this minimum setback for the expansion of existing substations. So if we only do 100 and then it needs to expand, you guys are limited. So just a thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have to protest. You're given 5 minutes here in the evening session. We only got 3 in the afternoon.
Public
Anyhow,
hearing, yes, sir.
I'll make this one very brief. I'm in agreement with Karen Hunt, and good luck with Dominion Power, but I am in favor of this amendment, but good luck with the Dominion Power.
Thank you.
All right, Sarah Parmalee representing the Piedmont Environmental Council. I'll keep it short. I would like to, again, start out by thanking the Planning Commission and county staff as well as the board who worked to enact this small but significant change to the County Code of Ordinance. We believe these proposed changes will ensure greater transparency, impact mitigation, and local control over these facilities. As we have previously stated, this amendment includes reasonable protections for the community and critical resources without prohibiting substations from being approved where they are needed to meet local needs. Although this amendment will not impact the proposed wreck and rebuild of the Page-Sperryville line, PEC believes it is important to enact it now so that it can be firmly in place in the event that First Energy or another utility attempts to expand that substation or others to route more power to data centers in Culpeper, Fauquier, and Northern Virginia. Power is important, as are data centers, but we do not want to see Rappahannock become the next superhighway for transmission lines simply because it is the path of least resistance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Like the others, I support the efforts of this Board of Supervisors. and the
Mr. Aldrich.
I'm
just
sorry.
give Name and district, please.
David Aldrich, Hampton District.
Thank you.
How'd you know my name when I didn't tell you? So I'd like to support the effort that you all are considering tonight to update the County Code of Ordinance to require the special exemption for newer expanded substations. The proposed changes would provide our company representatives with more control over the location of new proposed substations as well as the expansion of the 2 existing ones, while ensuring more public input during the review process of the proposed utility expansions in the county. I believe these updates are important. While local governments have very limited authority over transmission lines and other aspects of utility expansion proposals, you can require use permits for substations. For example, despite First Energy's repeated denials, their proposed Page-Sperryville transmission line rebuild project might end up being the initial step of a larger effort to greatly enhance transmission power generated west of Rappahannock and transported east to existing and proposed data centers in Culpeper and elsewhere. The infrastructure to implement this enhanced transmission capability could include enormous 230 kV or even 500 kV transmission lines, similar to the current ones running through Huntley, and could run through existing rights-of-way along Route 522 and 211 to Warrenton. If pursued by First Energy and other utilities, these efforts to render our county a transmission corridor for the data center industry will require additional and enhanced substations with the requisite special exemption permit if approved tonight. The proposed updates to the County Code of Ordinance provides our county representatives, you all, with the opportunity to have input into determining whether potential utility expansion projects are consistent with our county values as promulgated in our comprehensive plan, and are in the best interests of our county residents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, not seeing anyone else in the courtroom. Anyone on Zoom wishing to speak during this public hearing, please raise your Zoom hand and be recognized. All right, not seeing a Zoom hand, I'll close the public hearing and open it up to the board.
Madam Chair, I'll put forward a motion for the sake of discussion and possible adoption, depending on how all you feel. I'll go ahead and put forward the motion that we adopt the provided ordinance amending Rappahannock County Code, Chapter 170, as presented with respect to electrical substations.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Madam Chair, one question I have, perhaps it's just me never really embracing fully the need to put detail into these types of ordinances. Ms. Hunt raises important points about minimum parcel size, slope, frontage, road frontage, et cetera. My question there, and maybe Mr. Curry can weigh in, is to the extent that the mechanism here will be a review of an application under a special exception permit process, is it reasonable to say that this additional specificity could be dealt with by way of conditions placed on the permit through the special exception process? In other words, I don't want to encumber an ordinance too much that it boxes us into an unhelpful corner, but want to make sure that we have the option to add restrictions by way of conditions through the permit process.
Yes, conditions can be applied that would be tailored to the site-specific location for a particular project. As Ms. Hunt pointed out, the genesis of these special requirements was the renewable energy special use that the board adopted back in 2021. And the journey from those requirements to these requirements ultimately were to pull out things that were thought important for a larger aerial use, like a utility solar, 20 acres, 30 acres, 40 acres, that would be really important if you had an expansive use compared to a, half, 1, 2 acre substation that would not have as much of an impact where it's the prime farmland and slope and things like that. As speakers noted, electrical substations are needed. We just want to make sure that the board is empowered to consider appropriate standards when you're adopting them. Ultimately, all of these could be incorporated into general standards, and it's mostly guidelines for you and future boards on what to consider when these projects come in, so that you're not missing items when they're before you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Supervisor Whitson hit the nail on the head.
I'll let you go first next time so you can hit the nail.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
I'll just say there was overwhelming support at the planning commission also. So.
Good.
I'm good.
Yep, you're good. All right,
Support it.
we had a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Roll call,
please.
Yep. Mr. Settle.
Aye.
Mr. Jeno.
Aye.
Ms. Comer.
Aye.
Mr. Whitson.
Aye.
And I also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to Sarah and the PEC for your advocacy on this front.
Yep. All right. So we are going now to review animal control language in the Rappahannock County Code.
So I didn't catch the motion earlier today. That was to pick up the day session after the public hearing?
It was after the public hearing.
Could I
Amend it? Or
well, I won't amend that motion. I'll just make a motion that we
go
take
with
the
it?
items that were moved from the afternoon session and push them after public comment.
Let's do that. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Sorry about that.
That's okay. It
I
makes
heard
total sense.
public and
Okay. All right, we are going to public comment. Let's see if my little thing's on there that I have to read. Public comment right now, we are here to accomplish the business of local government for the sake of our citizens. We want to hear from our citizens, and the public comment period agenda item provides this opportunity. When speakers are called forward by the chair, please state your name and district. We also ask that your comments are limited to 3 minutes in order to provide equity to all speakers and to ensure our meeting is reasonable in length. If you have more information than can be summarized in 3 minutes, please leave behind materials for the board's review. The chair will ask you to conclude your remarks if the time has elapsed. If you have any questions during the session, you may ask for clarification from your board member or county administrator staff after the meeting is adjourned. Anyone wishing to speak during public comment?
Peter Jones, Hampton District. Due to the flock cameras, I don't believe that they are very conducive to the county that we live in. As much as I have a lot of respect for our local sheriff and our local deputies, many of which I know by first name and have their phone numbers, you know. As much faith as I have in them, I do not have the faith in the company that we are partnering with. Like I said, it is not due to lack of respect for Ms. Compton. It is due to lack of respect for that company. I feel it is a huge breach of my privacy. Although me as a driver, I have given up my rights to privacy to some degree driving down a public highway, I have not given up the rights of my daughter who sits in my back seat. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Peter.
MJ Molson-Bray in the Jackson District. I apologize that I missed the earlier discussion about the flock cameras, so I just wanted to make a couple of points. Most of what I have to say is based on what I've been able to read about this, either through my own research or what's been reported locally. But I do understand that a lot of the defense of our county's relationship with the flock company depend on representations that they have made about how they're going to treat the data and what the contract provides. And it takes about 30 seconds to identify a dozen instances in which, in just the past 6 months, in which that company has been sued for failing to live up to the representations that it makes in its contracts. Anytime that we implement something that intrudes on people's privacy, which this does, there's a trade-off, and I understand that there may be some benefits to law enforcement from doing this, but there are all kinds of things we could do that would have a benefit to law enforcement that most of us would stand up against and would be offended by. Whether this is an appropriate trade-off for Rappahannock, I'm skeptical, but perhaps I could be convinced if this was simply a matter of local and state law enforcement gathering data. But that's really not what's been going on with respect to this company, and this data is being used in all kinds of ways that the sheriff has, made representations that it wouldn't be used, but the facts aren't bearing that out. And so I strongly object to this contract. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kristen Jones, the Hampton District. In regards to the flock cameras, I would just like to say that I know that advances in technology are just a part of life now, but I moved to Rappahannock County to live a quiet and humble life, and I feel like the flock cameras infringe on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen Hunt, Jackson District. At the Planning Commission meeting in February, I was alarmed when Commissioner Sisk said that our local electric co-op, REC, who provides for local needs, is being evicted from the First Energy transmission lines that connect to the Sperryville substation. Another point, I share the privacy concerns of others have raised with the flock cameras, whether it be them or other data collection devices. Even if local funding is not involved, tax dollars from Virginia residents are. What other agencies could seek access to the system? What criteria constitutes a permissible justification? I support our sheriff's department, but I'm not sure I support this kind of public surveillance system here in Rappahannock. And I certainly have questions about enriching a private company that shares little information with the broader public, whose movements are being monitored by them and monetized by them. We don't know what else they're doing with this data. I missed the 2 p.m. meeting, so forgive me if I'm unaware of the dog discussion. Regarding dogs running at large, there have been instances that I'm aware of for some years now, up on North Pose Road, where a dog was challenging people out walking on the road that had children with them. On Seven Ponds Road, where a particular person, despite several residents speaking with them about issues, would not contain their dog. And then, of course, the recent Amosville situation that everybody's aware of. There should be some recourse for folks when a dog owner cannot or will not manage their animal. So I'd encourage you to consider what we need to do to improve that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Bill Tiekelman. I don't know what district I'm in. Hampton, I'm still in Hampton. Okay, I just moved from Hampton to Hampton.
Well represented.
I'm here to speak against the cameras. I think it's very unsettling to have a private company collecting data on our whereabouts. This isn't anything about law enforcement. It's just knowing where we are. And I think it violates our right to privacy. I think it chills our ability to associate freely with one another without surveillance. I'd like to know that when I go talk to my supervisor, I'm not having somebody following me around. We might have, but anyway, if this were completely under the auspices of the government is bound by certain laws to not use this in bad ways. But this is a private company. They have no such constraints. They can ingratiate themselves to us by sharing their information with the sheriff, but that doesn't change the fact that we don't know, as other people have said, what they're going to do with it. These people could know exactly where each one of you are at any particular time of the day, and between dusk and dawn, you'd all be picked up. For what, maybe? We talk about things like being anti-fascist now as being seditious or traitorous or terrorism or something like that. People go enforcing the law as it stands against these things like ICE and stuff like this. They can come out and pick you all up in an afternoon using this. They know where you all are. Things like this are too powerful. They shouldn't be out of the hands of us. We can deal with this by zoning. Zone them out.
Thank you. All right, doesn't look like there's anybody else in the courtroom for public comment. Anyone on Zoom wishing to speak during public comment, please raise your Zoom hand. All right, not seeing a Zoom hand raised, I'll go ahead and close public comment. Thank you. All right, now if my arrows are correct, we are back to review animal control language in the Rappahannock County Code.
So, at long last, this agenda topic has been moved several times today. I asked for this to be on the agenda in light of recent events. Actually, before Christmas, I took a couple phone calls and spoke with a few constituents who were concerned about an uptick in dogs at large, and then of course everyone has read about the most recent event, which certainly hope an event of that magnitude is maybe a one-off. I certainly am hoping that is the case, But nevertheless, I did want us to take the time to review this, our code, as a board together. I greatly value the opinions of all of my colleagues at this table. Mr. Supervisor Settle with some law enforcement background, Supervisor Geno with he raises livestock, his farming background, and then, of course, my colleagues to my left with their governance expertise. When I look at what we currently have on the books, the onus is, it feels like it's all on the victim. Like the dogs can run around, all they need is a license, a tag, and a rabies vaccination, but I don't see where there's any real penalty for kind of repeat offenders. And I'm just wondering what others, I'm curious to see what you all might think about that.
What beyond, someone earlier today, a constituent of yours, Ms. McCann, raised the idea of the ordinance in its current form is lacking language on limiting roaming animals to your own property. So that would be another area. There are other things that jump out at you that could be remedied through an amendment so that we could task county administration and staff with sort of an area to target in fleshing this out.
Certainly, like I said, a penalty of sort for those folks who cannot or will not control their animals. You know, we all, I don't know how many people in this room have dogs. I have one, and he is a runner. But I'm very well aware that he is a runner. So I do my very best to keep him under control and on my own property. And I certainly don't want to tie the hands of, you know, livestock animal guardian dogs, and I don't want to penalize maybe those folks who have hunting dogs. But when dogs are out repeatedly and neighbors are asking for help, please keep your dog, you know, away or control them, and that isn't the case, then I think there should be, Ms. McCann mentioned maybe, you know, a $100 fine for not being able to control your dog.
I was actually surprised to read through this before the meeting and understand that my dogs were allowed to run across other people's property. So, and there's really is no recourse unless they, hand deliver me a notice saying they don't want them there. And so I can understand that. It seems like maybe the definition that we really need to dwell on is what a dangerous dog is. And that section of the code seems like that's the really relevant piece here. If my neighbor's dog comes onto mine, I call and say, hey, your dog's over here, but it's not causing any trouble. That's one thing. What we're really talking about is what happens when it's, repeatedly, causing trouble. And maybe that's the place we need to dwell.
That's a good point. I just wonder if Mr. Goff, through his Commonwealth's attorney group, could find some model ordinances that we could at least do a red line compare to see what we might be missing, and that would be appropriate for a rural area, because I also don't want to undermine the rural spirit of Rappahannock County, to Donna's point regarding livestock guardian dogs and our fox hunting community. So to me, it seems like we should be looking at perhaps some other ordinances that reflect a similar culture and rural community as like ours, and then not reinvent the wheel, but perhaps borrow.
Sure. Most of the ordinances around here kind of track ours that are from the same time period. And we're constrained by the Code of Virginia. And there is the overarching state code regarding dogs running at large, which is, I think, what we're talking about. and that's 3.26538. There's another code section, 3.26543, that allows a locality to adopt ordinances that are, quote, parallel to that particular statute and another bunch of enumerated ones. And they may adopt and make more stringent than the code section allows. Although you run up against something like this, that the amount established as a penalty for the dogs running at large by the locality shall not exceed $100 per dog found. So how do you draft something that's more stringent but still parallel to that? But there are other provisions in that code section that could be amended so that if you were to structure a penalties that were less than $100 but mounting up to $100 for subsequent offenses, that might provide the incentive you're looking for, like the dog on South Pose that just kept on menacing everybody and everybody was complaining about it. Well, if one day the owner has to pay $35, the next day he's got to pay $50, and the next day is $75, finally $100, whatever, for every occasion thereafter, it starts to get expensive and maybe you'll buy a doghouse or something. But that's easy to do. So if the goal of the board is to strengthen this, then we can do that. We can come back to you with an ordinance that you can publish that will make the penalty structures more effective, perhaps. And also, right now, there is no penalty for a dog that has a rabies collar and a county collar to be running at large. You can change that. You can follow the state definition here and just, if it's off the property and not restrained and not under control of its owner, and accept hunting dogs as an exception. And
So this this parallel, the provision in the Code of Virginia that allows more stringent local ordinances, how do you reconcile that with our obligations under the Dillon rule?
well, because they're giving you a specific grant of authority, so Dillon's not in play.
And that grant of authority is focused on what area of the Code of Virginia? Is specifically animal control?
There's a long list.
Oh, okay. So it's other local ordinances where there's wiggle room to be more strict.
Title 3.2.
Regarding dogs in particular.
Oh, okay.
And so they go through this long litany under 6543 that is rather exhaustive, and they've picked and chosen what you can tinker with. Let me tell you where it's at here. Pardon me. So, governing body of any locality may adopt and make more stringent ordinances that parallel 6521 through 6539. That's what we're talking about running at large. 3.26546 through 3.26555, 6562, so they're skipping a few. Then 3.26569, 70, 74, and 74 through 6580, and 6585 through 6590. So there's your list. You can act within that realm, but not beyond. But that gives you a lot of leeway. So it'd be my job to advise you as to what's parallel, meaning running side by side, right? Okay, but more stringent. And more stringent means enhanced penalties, in my view, and also further restrictions as to how far the dog's allowed to go or whatnot. But right now, your first thing would, if you don't want to run it at large at all, you'd have to repeal the rabies and tag exception. Because if they got those two things, they can go from Chester Gap to Castleton and back in one day and kill as many sheep as they want until they get caught. So, but if you catch it right, then the other thing is the right for the animal control officer to impound a stray or running dog that doesn't have a tag. See, because the Code of Virginia says if it's got a tag, that animal control officer has to make due efforts to contact the rightful owner. So if it's not got a tag, what do you do with it? You just let it run at large still? No, it doesn't make any sense. Especially if it's suspected of killing livestock or it's acting like it might. Then you want the animal control officer to have the right to impound it and take it to the pound, right?
Okay, so Art, I'm gonna make a motion that you do that.
All right. I came prepared tonight. He told me to be prepared.
I'm gonna make a motion that you analyze our ordinance and areas that we could potentially make penalties more stringent.
And could you
Is that
modify
good?
that by saying, with regard to dogs running at large?
With regard to dogs running
There's a
at
whole bunch of
large.
other stuff.
Yes, yes.
Takes the whole order.
Yeah, just do it all, Art.
Can I suggest we add vicious dogs also? We may need
Yes.
to read our dangerous or vicious dogs.
Dangerous and vicious dogs, I can give you a report on that, but that statute is really exhaustive and detailed. Dangerous and vicious gives the sheriff's and animal control plenary rights to seize them. If they've bitten a companion animal or a person, they're out of here. But you still need a judicial decree to deem them dangerous or vicious, because it kicks in some extreme penalties, like $300,000 in the case of a dangerous dog for liability insurance, and the death penalty for vicious dogs, and the death penalty for livestock killing dogs. But also too, we don't have the right to seize the suspected livestock killing dogs, which was a sad thing about the Amosville situation, because the first deputy that showed up, all he could do was seize it for long enough to determine it had blood on it and it was the offender, but he didn't have the right to then take it to the pound and seize the animal. Only, it says solely for the purpose of investigating whether the animal is guilty or not. And then you gotta give it back. Or you can't obviously set it free, but it had collars and stuff, as I understand. So then a week later, they were back down there at this poor farm, ripping the ears off the calves and stuff. So, I mean, we really probably ought to look at that too as part of your motion is, can we allow the sheriff's deputy, but I don't think so, because it says solely for the purpose in the state code.
That parallel code provision allowing for more stringent would not apply there.
Well, it
Might not.
wait a minute, I'll tell you if it does, because I already looked it up.
But dangerous and vicious dogs may be so acutely prescribed that we couldn't change that.
But,
Certainly look at them all.
so 6552 is on the list that's in 6543 as to parallel but more stringent. But then when you come down to this point where it says solely for the purpose, you can't write that out of the General Assembly's proscriptions. But you can come up with something else, and maybe that's what we can do.
There you go.
That's not defeating that, like outright writing it out of the law, but gives us an option.
Well, I guess
No.
the reason I brought up the dangerous and vicious dogs is the frustrating thing to me when I read that is if the dog snarls at me every day and snaps at me, my understanding is it's not dangerous until it bites me.
Or, yeah, right, or bites a companion animal.
Yeah, or bites a companion animal. So it can be.
Whose dog is it? Is he on your property snarling at you? On the street? Is he running at large?
Yeah, if I'm walking down the public
And that's what
driveway
we
and
want to
he's.
fix, is be able to pick up that
Yeah.
dog and take him to the pound.
Yep.
All right.
So that running at large fixes the dangerous or vicious because it gives us a right to.
Well, it gives you, at least when you encounter one, then you can call the deputy and say, hey, this dog's off the property and it's snarling at me and it needs to be taken out of here. That's what because he's not running at large. If he's got a tag on, he ain't running at large. So we just need to fix that part of it.
That makes sense. Okay.
So, Ms. Comer, are you going to add that piece?
I was
to-
gonna say, so what do I need to add to my motion now?
I think we just walk back around to your original motion.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, so my original motion stands.
All right.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just have one question. I hate to, but I'm looking at the current orders, the county order 65-7, trespassing dogs under Article 4. And 65-7 is statutory authority, 65-8, and then it goes down to 65-9, violations and penalties. It's a violation of this article for any dog owner who has received a written notice referred to in 65-8 to allow his or her dog or dogs to go up on the property referred in the written notice. Now, I agree with all that we've talked about here and the work that needs to be done, but I'm trying to discern, this is a $150 civil penalty for each violation of this article.
That's correct.
How does that play into, if Mr. Goff writes Mr. Settle a letter that says, keep your dogs off my property, and I don't do that, is that where this applies? I mean, how does that fit into
Yeah, if you
penalty?
if you send your neighbor a letter saying, hey, your dog keeps coming over here, get your dog off my property, keep him off, then that empowers the animal control officer to issue a summons. And then you come to court, and if the judge determines that you're guilty, you pay $150 civil penalty. Now, the $100 thing was in connection with that specific dogs running at large statute. So, we can also, let me just check one thing real quick. I don't think it's gone up, but I don't think it's been amended, but I'll tell you right now. And that was 6543, wasn't it? Yeah. So, no amendments. 6540 was the last, 6540.03. So that's it. So, we could write to our representatives and see if they'll up, because that $100 is probably not going to get somebody's attention these days.
Right.
But 250 would.
Yep.
Maybe.
So, but yeah, the trespassing thing, I don't think needs to be fixed. It's just a running at large part.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. All right. Now we move into board committee reports. And I have the Recreational Facilities Authority, which is me. The big deal right now is fodder stack, and I brought everybody a flyer in case they want to put it on their calendar.
Thank you.
You want to pass these down, please. It is April 18th, and again, we have one park. This is the way this park makes a lot of money to be able to do the upgrades and everything they've been doing. I don't know if you've been to the park lately, but it is very impressive, and they just continue to get grants and make things better. So
It's amazing.
come out and support Fodder Stack. I know you already do, and hope that it's a good, pretty day. Next, we have Public Safety Committee.
Sure. I'll just be brief for anyone who, Mr. Alders and Mr. Tiegelman, who weren't here this afternoon, but Public Safety Committee, we had a special meeting to focus on the Chester Gap, Warren County funding agreement question, and the Public Safety Committee, with great input from Supervisor Settle and others on Darren Stevens and others on the Public Safety Committee, voted unanimously to recommend that the Board of Supervisors pursue the placement of paid people at Flint Hill Volunteer Fire and Rescue, absent a recommitment by the Warren County Board of Supervisors to re-enter into a renegotiated agreement for running Chester Gap. And so that was the outcome of the Public Safety Committee, and obviously we had a related vote earlier today on that same point here at the board. So,
Thank you.
thanks.
Planning Commission?
I think the major discussion was the electrical substations, and we've already covered that, so.
Great, thank you.
Nothing else to report.
Fire Levy Board has not met yet, I don't believe.
St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's Day. It's a busy day.
That's going to be firefighters and St. Patty's Day, those two go hand in hand, I think.
RSW Authority?
I did not attend. I was not able to attend, and I think it was prior to our last meeting.
Yeah.
So it's,
Okay, then
it's
we've
just,
already
it's,
hit
yeah.
Okay.
Let me just say a couple minor things, not minor, quick things. As happens every year, the body's working on their budget. It is going up for each locality, and that's largely due to our rented bed space trending down. We were bringing in $1 million a year a few years ago, renting to some of our peer localities, and they found other places to do that. They're closer to home. So that makes our costs go up. We're in the process of our annual true-up review, which looks back at the actual bed usage over the last 3 years, the actual revenues, actual expenses last year, and then returns funding back to each locality, and we'll get a little money back from that. And lastly, Culpeper County formally reached out and requested just preliminary conversations with us, the RSWRJ, as well as CVRJ, as to whether it would be possible for Culpeper to join the regional jail. And so very preliminary discussions happened. And in a nutshell, from RSW's perspective, was, well, if there's a deal we can't refuse, we might consider it. And if you want to pay for whatever analysis and study it would take to put together the financial review, we'd be willing to allow you to do that.
Good. It won't cost us anything, right? Good.
All right, Virginia Career Works.
They meet this month.
All right, thank you. Treasurer's reports. The cash flow and sales tax are my top favorites, I think.
Yeah, as has been the case the last several months, cash flow is trending along with the past couple of fiscal years, so that means that's good.
Yep.
Sales tax has been strong, and you can see the most recent month is
really
kept along
strong.
that trend. As we talked about, there's 2 months delay, so these are spending in December, or in December leads to February results here, so that's why you see March drop so far. So December spending is that much more than January spending.
Yep. Wow.
I noticed our meals and lodging tax is down just a little, which may have been last year was a blip.
Yeah, I don't recall whether this is a full quarter or not. Probably is, given the bar. Sometimes if people are late, then you won't see the full revenue for the quarter in the chart until maybe a month later, in which case they'll end up having to pay interest and penalties as well. So it's pretty close.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, and March is when, thank goodness, everybody starts coming back out again and spending money. Any other reports board members are interested in?
Not until you get down a little further.
Okay. All right, review of legal matters.
Madam Chair, did you want to discuss anything in General Assembly update?
Oh, did I miss that already? That was lower down. Gotcha. General Assembly update. There is at least one bill, which is the collective bargaining. Is there one still, Ms. Comer may have corrected me on the other one, that is regards to housing? You have to have so many, like 15,000 citizens or something for that to go into effect.
Yeah, the multifamily and business has now been restricted to towns and cities over 20,000, so they don't like it, but we're okay with it now.
Okay.
There are still other bills that aren't great. Utility solar. We have all those wonderful special requirements we talked about earlier that we borrowed many for substations. The General Assembly is poised to tell us prescriptively what special requirements we can have, what setbacks. You know, you can have any setback you want as long as it's not more than 100 feet, things like that. So we'll see where that goes. I think it's likely that it will pass. There are a few others that aren't great as well. I encourage you to review this list. It's hard to keep up this time of year, fast and furious.
What I would like to do, if I can get permission from the board, is to go ahead and ask Mr. Curry's in the office to create a letter from the Board of Supervisors to Richmond with regards to the collective bargaining impact. I know some may have reached out individually, but I do believe we get more our words are more recognized when it comes from the entire board.
I'll make a motion. I'm not real good at making these motions just yet.
Keep working on it. Practice makes perfect.
Exactly,
and
yeah.
We all struggle.
I'm really good at the second.
That's not leadership.
I'll make a motion that Chair Donahue works with Mr. Curry to craft a letter that we send to Richmond outlining our concerns on various legislative matters. How about that?
That's great, actually. Do I have a second?
Uh-oh, what if it fails? I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor,
Well, can I-
sorry, discussion.
Can I ask which bill we're talking about specifically, the collective bargaining?
The collective bargaining is,
It's not listed in my
Okay.
bills.
Okay, okay.
It's equally offensive to all localities, not just us, but
Senate Bill 378.
I did do a fiscal impacts analysis on this for the DHCD, and it could have a multi-million-dollar annual effect on us, have $100 million effect on some of the larger localities, is millions and millions and millions of dollars that employees would get in their check, but taxpayers would have removed from their wallet, quite frankly. There's no other way to make it work.
And this is collective bargaining
For public employees.
for public employees.
Right now it's precluded by state law, and this would be totally changing it and flipping it on its head and allowing it. And actually mandating prescribed pathways for it. We don't have attorneys skilled in that area, so we'd probably be looking for consulting attorneys. It'd be a great area to get into. Maybe we should talk to Van, he could do that. And then just the increase in salary for schools and local government sheriff, it's across the whole state, it's huge. Now, the governor has indicated before the session that maybe she wouldn't support this, but I think it's going to get on her desk, so we're going to find out.
Okay.
And it's House Bill 1263. But the motion Ms. Comer made was really broad, so it wasn't specific to that. If you have any concerns, now's a good time to speak up, but I just want to be able to send a letter with Mr. Curry's writing.
Yeah, if you're going to send a letter, I would narrow it down to your key issue and not have a buckshot.
Okay. I was just more concerned about something else coming up in between.
Yeah, a separate letter maybe, but.
Okay.
Okay, so then I will amend my motion to for SB 378 and HB 1263 specifically. That's what we want you to address.
In this letter.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. All right, Ms. Comer, did you have anything in this you were interested in?
Yes, the Laurel Ridge.
Community College?
Yes. So I just because it was brought up at our joint school board and board of supervisor meeting, and I admittedly had not reviewed that report for that meeting. And I found a couple of, I don't want to say there weren't mistakes in them. I just want to make a couple of things clear because I think it's important. First, and my laptop died, so the impact report. So on that, when we met with the school board, Chair Donahue had pointed out that our numbers were dipping from Rappahannock into Laurel Ridge. I just wanted to point out that that was specifically dual enrollment students. So not overall, and I remember asking that night, does that include workforce students? And the answer was yes. That is incorrect. The chart she was looking at was specifically dual enrollment students. So of course that can fluctuate depending on class size and, and student interests. Also, I think somewhere in there it mentioned 97 Rappahannock resident students. Again, when you read it, it says 97 academic students. I just want to reiterate that at work, what we call the credit side of the college and the credential, the continuing education side, they're often two different sets of students, and they're not always counted the same way. And then lastly, the overall report is reference some credentials referencing the heavy equipment operator. Gary, if you'd pull up that report for me, the second, yeah, that'd be great. So and scroll down, somewhere in there, he references there we go. He says Rappahannock High School students earned industry-recognized NCCER credentials in core craft, HVAC, and plumbing. Rappahannock students there were way more other credentials. I mean, I alone saw Rappahannock residents in welding classes. I saw they were earning a industry credential in the heavy equipment operator. I know of a couple of RAP students who went through our fiber tech program. So I'm just pointing that out to say that some of those numbers weren't exactly correct. And you all know, like, Laura Ridge is my jam, so I gotta make sure I had to stick up for it. I was like, no.
So how do we resolve that for future reports?
Well, I think what I'll do is reach out to our rep and then help him understand why this report in particular maybe those numbers were a little skewed, and maybe help him with some other questions that he might want to ask, or other information that he might want to present that he may not know to be looking for, because it is complicated. It is complicated. People ask me all the time questions, and I'll say, oh yeah, that's the credit side, so that people will say enrollment's down. Well, no, at workforce enrollment's up, so it's I'll do that. I'll reach out to him.
That's Wolf Errors.
Yeah, I think that'd be
Wolf
great.
Errors.
At risk of bouncing around, just point out to you the VDOT's 2026 paving schedule is included.
Yes.
That shows where the overlays are going to happen, where the surface treatment is going to happen in the next season. There's a little map in there. It's good for board members, citizens to take a look at that.
Yeah, I learned the hard way. Don't overlook those details, because the overlays happen and it's not pretty at first. And
if they're doing surface treatment on your secondary road with like a slurry seal,
Yes,
then
it's a mess.
citizens will talk to you about it after the rocks are on the road and they don't understand it. It'll get back to normal eventually.
Okay, yeah.
And next month is the 6-year plan, right?
Next April, you'll hear preliminary information on the secondary 6-year plan. The board will provide some guidance, and then in May, you'll have a public hearing on that. Last year, you decided not to have a public hearing and hang on to the prior year, so this year you must have a public hearing. So you'll make some decisions in April. I have some meetings in March with VDOT to get ready for that April meeting.
Okay. All right, any other reports that people would like to go over? If not, I'm going to jump into matters presented by the board.
Just, I've lost track, but we also had under old business, this outdoor lighting discussion. I know it's pretty hard to keep track. I've just been carefully going back and.
Yes. So court.
This is under old business, the AG opinion on local control of outdoor lighting.
Is that not the last item on the agenda?
It
Is it? Okay, so we'll go to that last, I guess.
All right.
Yeah.
So matters presented by the board. Mr. Suttle?
Just one real quickly. Last week, week before, Chair Donahue and myself were on a call with First Energy, and also on that call was a representative from Delegate Weaver's office. And that was really a courtesy call, and just to kind of catch up and reinforce to First Energy concerns of the county that they've already heard. And it was a really good meeting, I thought, and very transparent, and their responses were in line with what we've already heard, and also with an understanding of some of the concerns we still have that will get teased out when the SCC filing of the application comes about, which we don't have a date for that yet. The one thing that did come out of that, and First Energy indicated that they wanted to write a letter to the citizens of Rappahannock and post that in the paper, answering questions and reaffirming stances. This is not about data centers, whether, that discussion takes on its own life, but some of the more hot topic conversations. And we asked them to wait until after this meeting. You never know in public comment where we might learn of something else. We want to be consistent with our message, and I think they want to be consistent with their message. Just another avenue of communication to the public. I don't know what that's going to look like, but that will, once that letter is written, I guess we will share that with the board just to make sure we're. Anyway, it's just a little bit of an update. Did I miss something?
No, I thought it was a good meeting. I'm glad they care enough to want to have a continued discussion, and they really wanted to make sure they were hearing everything we were hearing, to make sure that it was covered in this letter that they were going to write. And it was a Tuesday meeting, and they wanted to get it into Rap News, and I said, it's got to be in by Tuesday night. And they went, oh. So, yeah, that worked out. No, I thought it was good. Mr. General.
I don't have anything to add
Okay.
right now.
Ms. Coleman.
So a couple of things. I attended the VACO Legislative Day with Chair Donahue back the first part of February. It was after our February meeting, but before this one, obviously, and met with Delegate Webert and Senator Reeves. It was a really good day. We had great conversation with them, and while we were waiting for Senator Reeves, we had the pleasure of interacting with several of our peers from neighboring counties, and I tend to think we should always think regionally and act locally. So it was good to be in one room and listen to, what they had going on, and it was just a good day. Also, I just want to she wasn't here this afternoon. Miss Jewel has been working on some tourism stuff for us, and it's going very well. So hopefully that will help with the meals and lodging taxes. It'll drive a little more money that way. And then I'm sorry, remind everyone that the first time ever, the varsity Panthers basketball team is going to a state tournament tomorrow. It's just at King George High School. It's only an hour, 25 minutes away from here. I'm just saying they really like when you come and clap and stomp and cheer. So that's it.
Great. All right.
First of all, go Panthers. I'd be there, but I have a class tomorrow night. And it really isn't a bad drive because it's just down 17, I would expect. Yep. The VACO attendance, one thing I got out of it was based on the meeting we all ended up impromptu in Senator Reeves' office, led me to recommend to the Rappahannock Regional Commission that we try to do something in July with our delegate and our senator to let them know what is important to us when they're not running around like chickens with their head cut off because of all the things happening when they're in Richmond. So I do believe that is going to happen, hopefully sometime in July. Patrick Loney is going to work on making that happen. The talent show, if you missed it, holy moly, it was, they were bringing folding chairs in because it was so well attended. And what a great show with many diverse talents. And I think everybody enjoyed it. Hopefully, I think the band boosters or somebody was trying to make some money with drinks and stuff. So don't miss it next year because, boy, that was fun. And that's all I have. And now, Office of Attorney General. Nope, sorry, electrical substation. No, we did that. Gosh, I'm so confused. We are now on the Office of Attorney General official opinion regarding zoning control of outdoor lighting.
So I think we had asked, right?
Yep. Van Kearney was very interested in the subject, and I did tell him that we have an opinion.
I did send, I sent Van a letter very shortly after I got it. He was very interested to read it. It essentially says what I argued, and that was, no, we don't have the authority to do by zoning to regulate residential outdoor illumination. My argument was that two specific statutes were amended in 1997 to add in the power to govern outdoor illumination in any form, residential or commercial. And those related to the county manager form and the county executive form, neither of which we are. We're the traditional board form, having been so since 1870 when our first board met here in this courtroom, in this very room. So there was no parallel grant of authority to counties generally where the general zoning power resides, and that is 15.22283. When the General Assembly acts, it's presumed that a legislative enactment will limit the and when they do limit the manner in which something may be done, that same enactment also evinces the intent that it shall not be done another way. And I'm quoting from a Supreme Court case that is valid law. So the Attorney General Jones, who is obviously taken over from Jason Miyares, opines that we don't have the authority at this time. However, that future zoning enactments, if made based on hearing about evidence, hearing after you hear certain evidence, it may be possible under the theory that that same code section, the general zoning code, says that the counties do have the right to regulate the, quote, obstruction of light and air. So the theory, I suppose, would be that starlight is light and therefore can be regulated. I find it to be a thin reed. I would want to do a lot more thinking about this before I would recommend to this board that you enact such an ordinance based on that a generalized type of a theory. Instead, I'd be a lot more comfortable if someone in Richmond would carry a bill for us that perhaps would recognize the importance of seeing the night sky. In a lot of places in Virginia, I mean, over in the valley, southwest, there's beautiful skies. And some of the most beautiful things that took me to Rappahannock County when I was a very young man was laying out in the backyard and looking up at the Milky Way. It's like you could touch it. But now Culpeper has come into my backyard, and it's an orange glow. You can't see the Milky Way even on the clearest fall night because of Culpeper's development. So, but I'm saying that for the legal matter, I don't think we have the authority to do it, and I'm not convinced that what Attorney General Jones suggests would be enough to survive a challenge. I'm very suspicious of that. It's too vague, and as you know, under the Dillon rule, which the Attorney General cites, that's a rather stringent rule. We got to be able to point right to it in the code to say we got the power to do it like we do with the dogs. That's different because we got it, but not here. I don't think so.
So that last paragraph conclusion, to me, I thought it read that we did have the right to do it moving forward, just not backwards.
He says it's his opinion that it's subject to the caveats discussed above, which are the devil's in the details, in such a way to mitigate light pollution through regulation of the residential outdoor light fixtures required for future residential land development. But we don't have the right to require people to retrofit.
Right.
I mean, all that's
Understand the retro.
quote grandfathered in.
Yep.
So, but I'm still even suspicious of the only thing he points to is that little phrase, obstruction of light and air, which I think at the time it was adopted originally had a very different meaning. Had to do with urban overcrowding, tall buildings cutting off light and air circulation for other buildings and littler buildings. I don't think they had any intention of calling starlight light for that purpose. So I'm just suspicious of it as a legal proposition.
Okay. Is there anything that stops us from putting wording in our comp plan that's being updated that at least refers to buildings and lights and new builds.
Well, the comprehensive plan, of course, doesn't have the force of law. anyway,
Right,
so-
but it always is used when we end up in court.
Well,
One of the
always
first questions, what's in your comp plan?
What's in your comp plan, and that's a reflection of zoning priorities, pretty much. So, I mean, if you think that preserving the night sky is a zoning priority, then maybe it's appropriate for the comp plan. But I don't see the utility of putting something in that you can't enforce. So, again, it's just my opinion, one lawyer, that we just don't have the authority until the General Assembly gives it to us. I don't think we get it through what Attorney General Jones opines. I don't think we're there.
And this has been kicked around since 2015 when I first ran. I mean, there was like a push and outcry and certain crowd showed up.
Mr. Parrish's pet issue, sure.
Yeah, and then on the flip side, there was another county supervisor and he brought people in too. He said the more lights the better. So that was 2015 and nothing's changed since then, I think is the conclusion. I mean, because I think there was real skepticism then that we couldn't move forward with any local ordinance.
Well, I also got an email from Mr. Connick, who did congratulate me on my letter to the Attorney General, and was his words were, "I'm so glad I expletive deleted. Please make sure Peter Luke gets this opinion."
Lovely, always a class act.
Yeah, I think I've always thought, well, since Van brought it up, that maybe there's an opportunity that at least if it's in things like our comp plan, it does help explain to everyone that reads our comp plan that dark skies is very important to us, and we're going to try to keep us that way. So don't bring in a big industrial site, not that anybody would, but with bright lights and go crazy here, we just aren't going to deal with that.
Now,
You can and do regulate commercial lighting.
Commercial's totally different.
Yep, but it's houses.
This is limited to residential.
In the comp plan, you put broad overtures in it regarding light. That might inform how densely you want to allow development to happen in the future. And that might inform future zoning law on density and whatever. So I think it's ripe for the comp plan, but it might not be just about light fixtures. It's just overall protection
Right,
of the night
yeah.
sky. And that might even be in there already. I don't know.
Thematic language.
And then you gotta deal with ag stuff, which is what we
Yeah.
primarily, ag and conservation. And there's just nothing in the code that gives us that authority. Because farmers need dawn dust lights and, all those kind of things. And boy, you get run into a buzzsaw trying to get that eliminated or restricted. But I appreciate the Attorney General's letter.
Yeah.
And I think that
Actually surprised they got it so fast.
it just is a thin reed to grasp onto for actually trying to pass a zoning ordinance that only affects residential lighting and residential where and what zones? Just R5 and R2, village?
Right.
Since Art played out in his yard, they've invented light bulbs and all kinds of things.
Very nice. All right.
Electricity.
Are you going to take Van's role now? Awesome. We have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much.